and welcome back to our program. You're watching Morning Thailand with Bo and Golf, and now political updates, Kun Bo.
Yes.
Of course, there's so many yesterday, and actually, I have to admit, I did went to the finance ministry because it's quite close to Kun Chain House, so why not? Might as well just see it for my own eyes. And apparently the whistles was quite loud. A lot of people were actually, there's a lot of free food given. There was a lot of drinks. A lot of people actually just gathered there to listen to what the people on the stage have to say. A lot of things have been said and such. And it seems like a few of the finance ministry's staff were there as well. So it's quite interesting sight to see.
That's right. Well,
overall,
moving just to mention in details to that as well. After we heard that there was already one of the arrest warrants that was out for Mr. Suthep Suban, of course, who's leading the group as well, right? And if some people think that that's going to be stopping him, well, obviously it's not, because he did come out to say he's still going to fight on, right?
We have a Thai saying that you got on the tiger's back already.
You can't get down, right?
Exactly.
Okay, I think that's also what they're going through as well, for him in particular. Now, just to mention, of course, there were lots of the government areas that were already being occupied by the groups and the rallies. And just to mention, they laid siege, for example, at the agriculture and cooperatives, tourism, interior, and transport ministries. And they left the foreign ministry and the public relations department, which they had occupied since Monday, right? But to mention, Mr. Suthep deemed the finance ministry, in particular, a second official rally venue. And that was in addition to the Democracy Monument site after it was overwhelmed by the protesters, all as well on Monday, according to the reports here. Now, he also called on people across the provinces to lay siege to the government offices in their respective areas to show their civil disobedience, reject the government. And the Defense Ministry on Wednesday came out to criticize the occupation or the of the state agencies, saying that the move is damaging the national security and stirring the international concern about Thailand. Meanwhile, there's also mentioning that police definitely have a duty to maintain law and order, and renewed a call for peaceful solutions to the conflict and patience from all sides. So we do know that the situation is being heated up a lot.
Of course.
Whether there are enough or not enough media coverage, that's also another story that has been mentioned about. Meanwhile, in particular, at the stage, and also coming from Mr. Suthep himself at the finance ministry, the area there, of course, he was trying to ask people to drive their private cars to park around.
To surround the area.
Right, to
because
surround the finance ministry.
I think he mentioned something like, well, he's not going to turn himself in, and if the police want him, well, the police going to have to barged into the protesting area, which we know that that's going to be almost impossible. Like, seriously, by about, not even, about almost 8 o'clock last night at the area, Rama 6 Road, and in front of the finance ministry itself, the car was packed already. I was traveling around the area. It normally was the 4-lane street. It turns out to just being down to only about
1 or 2 lanes?
Yeah, 1 or 2 lanes.
Oh, so
2 lanes actually, but there's a lot of guards that were helping in the area as well. So I guess at this point you cannot not guess. I know for sure because Kun Chain obviously have to find her different route to detour. So in front of the finance ministry has already been shut down.
That's true. And just to mention, just like you said, it was around the Pohonyotin Road all the way to the Rama 6 Road. And there's lots of layers of cars that's parked there. And accordingly, he said that this is so, to prevent any possible attempts to disperse the group or the rally, or even coming in to the finance ministry as well. So that's the details given there. I believe that he also mentioned to the protesters that were gathering that they should just be prepared
to
brace themselves for any possible clashes.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of report early this morning about the police that has been stopped by the protesters along Rama 6 Road because they say that they know that this is one of the attempt to get to Suthep. A lot of rumors last night before we actually go to bed, and at this morning, we know for sure the situation at the finance ministry has been quite intense at this point. So probably going to have to wait and see, but just give you a little bit more updates in terms of others' movement along the area. Don't forget, we still have other protesters as well. Apart from here is the anti-government protesters that led by People's Force for Democracy to overthrow Thaksin regime, which is PFOT by the Kun Jablongสีเมือง. Of course, that was still ongoing as well as the Dharma Army or Gong Thap Tham, and they say that it was surrounded the Interior Ministry office on Tuesday. So at this point, almost everywhere, and you have to admit, most of the ministry has been under a lot of control of the protesters already, but we also see a lot of the security personnel in spot as well. So it seems like Bangkok is definitely crowded at this time of the year, because it seems like a lot of people would like to voice their opposition against the government, but there are a lot more people who are coming in to voice their support to the government as well. So we see both sides of the situation, and I think that's pretty much why a lot of countries were actually quite concerned in terms of whether or not we will be able to control the situation.
And I think, we have seen the Prime Minister come out once, I think, after, the situation seems to be escalating a little bit more. She also, by the way, mentioned that, she's willing to talk to Mr. Suthep if, he also wants to as well on the Political Reform Forum, and also urge him and other protesters to please respect the law. And the decision to arrest the former Democrat MP was discussed in an urgent cabinet meeting, right? And this was since Monday. And she said, we will wait and see whether Mr. Suthep stays with other protesters or comes out. And if he comes out, he will be arrested under the warrant. But that's just, coming from another source that mentioned about, this referring to the arrest warrant.
Right. All right. With that, let's move on to the censure debate that has been ongoing yesterday. Of course, yesterday was the first day. It was quite intense, I would say. The Prime Minister actually addresses a lot of issues, and if you listen to her speech, her voice was shaken. Like you can hear it there, and I think it's a lot, because these long list of accusations against her, and the fact that she's probably has been quite, the flood, first thing. She has to look into that. There's also protesting out on the street, in the parliament, as well as at her residence, like Kunbo has just mentioned to you. So it was a lot for her to take, that's for sure. So yesterday, she just came out and talked a little bit about this particular issue. Several things that she was mentioned. I think one of the issue that I would say that I feel her voice, that caused her voice to shake quite a bit, especially in my opinion anyway, was the fact that she was addressing the fact that people has been calling her, or the opposition has calling her stupid, obviously, which technically that's still almost like, Kun Apisit did not say her names, but a lot of people are protesting because that was almost like suggestive that he was referring to her. Now she was talking about that too, and she said that, well, since she didn't really get a chance to work that closely with the opposition parties, so is more or less in terms of people that knows her would be people that works with her. So she said that she's going to have the people that works with her talk about this instead. But Kun Apisit Wechashiwa yesterday pretty much looked into the fact that criticized the government as well as Prime Minister about doing everything for her family's benefit and such, and creating economic instability with their populist policy as well. That was one of the hot issue that was debated on Tuesday. And they say that the anti-government protesters continue to occupy the finance ministry right now. But I think one of the interesting things is that the Democrats also try to distance themselves from that particular issue as well. So inside the parliament, Kun Apisit accused the prime minister of being in the center of corruption, that she has abused her authority in every manner, upstream, midstream, and downstream. And he focused his attack on the rice pledging scheme. They say that at this point, 146 MPs were actually registered to talk in this central debate, which it can only last 2 days. I'm not quite sure how that's going to work. It's going to take forever.
And we've seen what happened before when they didn't get their time, to say what they wanted to say.
400 and each person not going to talk for 5 minutes.
That's not possible.
And plus there's going to be some, objections and such. So that's going to take forever. Now they say that that was one of the things that has been on top of the list. Apart from that is the loan bill, as well as the water management scheme. Now, at this point, the opposition party was talking about the fact that the government was not telling the truth when it said that Nong Khai was one of the destinations for the high-speed train. Now, the line would go no further than Nakhon Ratchasima province. So I guess the original plan was Nong Khai, and right now we're just Nakhon Ratchasima. A lot of situation or issues going to have to be answered at this point. Now, the Prime Minister said one thing though. She said that I have always respected legislative institution, independent organizations, and democracy. We have the opposing views, but the government has tried to promote public participation and look after the protesters in peaceful manner. And at this point, I think one of the things is that the Prime Minister is trying to make sure that everything is a little bit more peaceful. Yesterday was heated, that's for sure, but one of the things is I'm not quite sure how many issues will actually be thoroughly addressed, because from listening yesterday, sometimes it just linked a lot to her brother. Kun Thaksin Shinawatra, the former prime minister, and of course it's almost like became one issue right now,
topic.
Right? Because a lot of people are claiming that Kun Yingluck Shinawatra was actually acting on behalf of her brother instead of being her own prime minister, and she has been denying that, talking to other reporters from the foreign press as well about this issue.
I was just going to say that I think most of the time before anyone was able to get into the point that they wanted to say, they had to give the background to it. So maybe, that's why it was a waste of some of the time, or they spent a lot of time on that before getting to what they really were supposed to say.
Now, let's take a short break because Kuchen probably going to have a lot more to say in terms of political situation right now, so please stay tuned.